Welcome to the Empowered Podcast, episode 52. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Empowered Podcast. Today, I wanted to talk specifically about masterminds on my Facebook page, which you can find me at facebook.com/ElleryWells, or on my Twitter at ElleryWells. I asked the question, what do you think about masterminds? Do you get value out of them? Are you looking for one? How do you find them? And I think it was a friend of mine named Steven who asked me to talk about masterminds on the podcast. So I thought I would take that opportunity and have one of my friends who I meet with regularly almost every week for the last several months, Justin Carper, on the episode today. He and I are in a mastermind group, and I thought who better to talk to about masterminds than someone I am in a mastermind group with. So with that said, welcome, Justin.
Hey, man, it's good to be here.
I am glad to finally connect. Our schedules, as you know, never seem to quite align, and I had to cancel this yesterday for what turned out to be a frivolous pursuit anyways.
Yeah, man, I played phone tag before. This first podcast tag I played. So
Exactly. So again, thank you for just taking time out of your day. I know you're about to head home and to all the craziness that home life brings with it. But let's talk about masterminds today. What is when you hear the word mastermind, Justin? What comes to mind immediately?
For me, mastermind. When I think of the word mastermind, I can't help but view a community, and I guess not a community in the form of a large group of people, but just people that think on a similar brainwave that come together. And for me, I joined our mastermind when I was going through a pretty tough time. So when I think mastermind, to me, it was a group that I could look to for support when other areas of my life weren't so stable. So for me, it's a good community just for some support that you don't necessarily get from people in the real world when you're discussing online pursuits. A lot of folks don't understand it, but when you got a community that's centered around that, it's a very good thing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Do you think there are people outside of in our mastermind, we talk a lot about entrepreneurship, starting online businesses, escaping a corporate job, things like that. But in our community, the podcast blogger community, mastermind is not really a foreign word. It's something that we talk about. It's something that many of us are familiar with outside of that environment. Do you think people really know what a mastermind is?
I really don't. I've mentioned the term, and you say the term without thinking about it. And every time I mentioned mastermind to people they kind of pause and look at you, and you have to remember, oh, wait a minute, you don't know what that is. And people when I mention mastermind, they think, oh, you got a special. Is it a club? Is it, what is it? And so, yeah, I think it really is something foreign to most people. I think just the word really, the mastermind term.
It's interesting that and I would agree, but it's interesting that it is kind of a weird word to so many people when Napoleon Hill, who really brought the term of mastermind, or maybe he even created it, he wrote Think and Grow Rich, 80 years ago. Is that right? Something like in 1930. So I've always found that most people don't focus on at all on personal development. Mm-hmm. Now, people listening to podcasts, people who are in my mastermind groups and things like that, personal development is something that we're used to, that's very common, and masterminds are another way to get personal development. So not only do I want to say average, but I'll say average people. Average people don't know what masterminds are, but average people stay average because they don't focus on personal development, and that just proves itself in the fact that the average person or the part of the population doesn't know a term that's prevalent in the personal development community that's 80 something years old.
Definitely.
85 years old, I guess.
Yeah, and a lot of that for me, even when I first started blogging, I'd hear the term mastermind. I'd hear people on Facebook mention their mastermind. And, until I really sought it out, it's our mastermind kind of started from, meeting in person, New Media Expo, Johnny Lee, we got the sales evangelist, Donald Kelly, and, you and I, and we all kind of met up physically, and then it turned into something where we meet online weekly. But until I sought it out, it wasn't something that I guess that I'd ever been involved with. But I think a lot of people sit on the outside and think, hey, that's a really good idea. I know it'd be good for me, but they never actually seek it out and get involved. And I think that's probably the biggest step, is just looking for a mastermind.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think people think it's a good idea, but they don't do anything about it?
I think it's like anything. I think it's like working out or eating healthy, right? You're sitting in the drive-thru at McDonald's, and the little wrap they got with all the lettuce and healthy things. That's a really good idea until you're sitting there and you're like, I'd rather have a Big Mac. And working out, hey, it's a really good idea, but I'd rather be comfortable in my house, watching TV. And I think getting together and talking to people is something that people want and they desire, but I think it's scary on the outside. I think people, once you get into it, once we start our masterminds, at 7:00 for us and for you, it's a lot of
6.
Yeah, 6. It's awesome once we get into it and it gets rolling and you get, everything starts flowing, and it's great. But before the first one, I'm not going to lie, I was a little nervous. I was thinking about, how am I going to benefit this group? What am I going to have to say? Am I going to, they're going to realize that I'm, just this guy that doesn't know what he's talking about. And I think it's really scary from the outside, but I think it's kind of like the gym. From the outside, you're like, I don't know. But once you get in there and get going, it's something that kind of can become a little addicting. It kind of, you see the benefits more from the inside than you do from the outside.
So what was it, Justin, that made you decide? Because I don't know. I think you've been part of our group from basically the very beginning.
Yeah.
But what was it that pushed you over the edge from, oh, that would be nice, to I'm going to show up 7:00 Wednesday mornings, I'm going to make a commitment and do this? What was it that kind of pushed you over the edge to make that decision and do that?
Well, for me, Johnny Lee Phillips, if you haven't checked him out, you should check out his podcast. You search Johnny Lee Phillips or I'm drawing a blank. This is horrible.
Your Life Detective.
Your Life Detective. He's going to kill me. I know he's rebranding, so maybe it won't be such a big deal. But for me, Johnny and I talked a good bit at New Media Expo, and we talked about doing a mastermind, and we talked about what it would entail. And at the time, it sounded like a really good idea. And then you leave, you don't see people face to face, and it was just kind of a what if. And then, I don't know, 3-4 months after New Media Expo, our family went through a really, really tough time. It was one of those life-altering things that I wouldn't wish on anyone. And going through that, we, especially when you're online, when you have a blog, especially a blog that's your name, and something bad happens, and people can Google your name, and people can just say things and say unkind things. And for me, it was a way to kind of regroup and be around people that I could learn from, and that I could, I guess, just talk openly and just be a part of a group and know that whatever I say is going to stay in the group. And even if I don't say a single word, if I just sit there and listen the whole time, I'm going to, from 7 to 8, I'm going to leave, better. So for me, joining the mastermind was, it was being a part of that community. I was at a point where I was going to throw in the towel on the blog. I was like, you know what, this is too tough. I don't know if I can get through this. And, going 3 or 4 weeks in the mastermind, my perspective started to change. I started to, just think about things differently after hearing, you guys talk about what you're doing and how, you're making an impact on the people that you're around. And, that's something that, I don't know, I feel called to do. I feel called to make a positive impact on those around me. And whether that's someone I run into at my business or someone that happens to stop on my blog, I kind of view those two as the same. So
what would you say has been This almost seems like a self-serving question, but what would you say the biggest impact of being part of our mastermind has been for you personally, or business-wise, or just you in general?
I mean, personally, it's when I started blogging, and I don't know, I kind of had this go it alone attitude. I kind of had this idea that I was going to go under the radar, and kind of all of a sudden, bam, it's just pop up and people are going to see me. And if you're considering, and if anyone out there listening is considering starting a blog or a podcast or doing anything online, that's the most incorrect view of blogging or doing anything online that you could have. Blogging, podcasting, it's all about community. It's all about having relationships with people, not so that you can get yourself in front of other people, but it's being part of a community so that you can serve others, so that one day that person, when they're thinking, hey, I need, someone asks them about someone that they're wanting to find a website or a blog that talks about health and fitness, and if you're a health and fitness blogger and you have a relationship with that person, you're the person that's going to come to mind. So for me, the community of it is the biggest thing for me. Just seeing that I'm not alone in the struggles. When I run into something and I think it's tough and I don't understand it, a lot of times you think that you're the only one that struggles with that, and you get on, a mastermind meeting call and you see that other people struggle with it too. So it kind of makes it seem more real.
If you had to, I don't not necessarily describe, but if you had to share like the biggest impact that the group has had on you, and if you're another masterminds too, I actually don't even know, but if you are, or you have similar groups, what has been the biggest benefit that you've gotten, or just a nugget of information that has moved the needle for you?
For me, right now, this is the only mastermind. I've been in another, but right now this is the only one. For me, the biggest thing for me has been the encouragement. I play a lot of basketball. I'm huge into sports. I grew up playing baseball, basketball, soccer. And it's one thing when you're playing basketball to be shooting free throws all by yourself in a gym, practicing. And I'd go days where I'd shoot 100, 200 free throws. And it's a whole nother situation when you're on the line in the middle of a game and you've got people cheering you on and you hear your name from the stands and you know that this free throw that you're about to shoot means something. And to me, being in a mastermind, you're not just sitting there on a computer with your fingers on the keyboard. You're sitting there in front of other people, and you know that those people, have your best interest at heart. And for me, the encouragement that I've gotten from other people, when you struggle in an area, other people can say, hey, I've had that same struggle. This is what it looked like when I went through it. So for me, the encouragement of it has been the biggest thing.
Just to play devil's advocate here just for a second, sure. Is it a different kind of encouragement than you would get other places? Is it better? Is it more? I mean, why do I need to join a mastermind group just to be encouraged? You've got friends and family. What's the difference?
The difference is I think it's a lot more specialized. Masterminds they're generally centered around a common theme. For us, we all blog. A lot of us, a lot of us podcast. So it's centered around a common theme. If I was to walk into the gym and ask someone, walk up to a big bodybuilder and say, hey man, how do you bake sweet potato souffle? And he'd be like, I have no idea. And a lot of times that's how I feel when I talk to other people, even my wife, family members. I put a blog up, and they're kind of looking at it like, what is the, they read the newspaper and they don't quite understand, why you would want to post something online. They don't understand maybe the impact that it could have. So I think it's a lot more specialized. Talking to your family members about whatever area that it is that you specialize in, they most likely aren't going to relate like someone else that's doing the exact same thing.
If someone came to you and said, Justin, how do I get to be a part of a mastermind group? How do I find one, or where do I get started? What would you say?
I'd say whatever community that you're a part of right now. For me, online, just something simple as Facebook. I'm part of, 15, 20 different groups. And within those groups, there are other people just like you. There are other people that are looking for a community, for a mastermind just like you, just getting on one of those groups and saying, hey, this is what I'm looking at doing. Is there anyone else out there that is thinking the same thing? I think that could go a long way. You might get in one of those groups and find that someone's already posted something like that, and you could hop on something that way. I think that's one way to kind of get to know people that you might not have a face-to-face relationship with. Get on a mastermind call and get to know some new people. I think another way is meeting you guys at New Media Expo. We had that brief encounter. We knew who each other were. I think there's a lot of people would probably have a business card sitting in their desk right now that they could say, hey, you know what, I met this person. We blog about similar interest. Hey, I'm gonna give them a call and see if they'd be interested. And they might know someone, and it could grow from there.
And that's a good point. We have to just kind of get out of at least it would be out of my comfort zone to reach out to someone I barely know, but I'm fairly shy. You guys know that, and the audience has heard me say that several times. But one of the coolest things that I've done, and it would be like the maybe beginnings of a mastermind. So if anyone's out there and they're curious about dipping their toe putting their toe into the mastermind, whatever people say, is I do virtual lunches with people. I've had one with Scott Barlow, who does, I forgot Scott's URL. It's, do you know Scott?
I don't, but isn't that the worst feeling when you?
Yes. Yeah. It's, Scott, I apologize. I've had a virtual lunch with him, Catalyst John. And a few other people. We just set up a Google Hangout or something, or a Skype call, and we grab some food, and it's just, we're 1,000 miles away, but we have this virtual lunch, video call, eat food, and it's kind of fun. But that way, it's on your terms. It's more casual since it's lunch. It's like a date. You're not going out to dinner. You're just grabbing coffee, or you're just going to lunch. Yeah. And I really like Scott, and I really like John, and we built a good relationship over those kinds of things. But that's a good way to meet people and share your goals and get feedback. It's very casual. It's not like you got to worry about a coaching session, or I have to pay this person. Just, hey, you want to grab a virtual lunch? And whenever, I think Scott was the one who introduced me to that, and I was like, what the heck is a virtual lunch? And it's exactly what it is. It's just a Skype call, and you're grabbing lunch. But
that's awesome. I've never encountered that. I've never run into that before. That's really cool. I'm gonna have to remember that.
So yeah, it is very cool. It's very, very casual, but it gives you a chance to bounce ideas off of someone. Not that the idea brainstorming of our mastermind group has gotten old or stale at all, but it's one more further removed person to give you feedback who might not necessarily been following your journey like the people in your mastermind group have, but just an outsider's perspective on what you're doing now instead of what you've been building up to. They don't see the building part, and they can give you some of those. So the benefit for you has been encouragement and connecting with people in your network, people who you have met who have similar interests, or how you can get in touch with one. What would you say to someone who would be interested in creating a mastermind?
I think kind of like we talked about a while ago is, first off, for a mastermind to exist, it has to be more than you. So first off, you've got to have more than one person. So that means you've got to find someone. Finding someone, it depends on what kind of mastermind you're looking at doing. Whatever area that you're looking to cover, whether it's blogging in general, whether it's blogging on a specific topic, whatever that's going to be, I think you'd have to narrow that down. And then you've got to find people, whether it's going to be people that you know or people that you don't. If it's people that you don't know, I would think you'd have to have at least some connection with them, whether it's you're part of the same Facebook group and maybe you've, commented on each other's posts or something, and you have some form of contact. I wouldn't think you would just email someone out of the blue. That'd be kind of creepy, like someone ringing your doorbell and wanting to be friends. But you'd have to have some connection, and I think you'd want to center it around a specific topic, whether it was blogging or podcasting. But I think the biggest thing is, finding the area that you wanted to focus in on, and then finding people most likely that you already have connections with, and just bringing everybody together. Because I mean, it's really not difficult to grab, Google Hangout, have everyone sign in at the same time, and you call it a mastermind, but it's just people getting together online and talking. And I think the mastermind term kind of makes it seem more involved than it really is. But grab people that you know.
More intimidating for sure.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, just grab people that you know, log in, talk, and you've got yourself a mastermind.
The only thing that that's great advice. The only thing I would add to that is there has to be some sort of structure. It can't just be like a couple guys hanging out and talking. There definitely needs to be some structure so you get the most benefit out of it, right?
No, you're totally right. And with us, that's something that definitely keeps us on point, is having a goal, whether it's a book that we're going through, whether it's a certain topic we're going to discuss for the day. But no, you're totally right. Having an agenda, because if you don't have that agenda, it just becomes what'd you do last week? How was your vacation? And yeah, no, you're totally right.
What would you hope to get out of a mastermind if you were about to join a new one, and you pictured yourself 6 months from now, 12 months from now, or someone listening to this, Justin, is thinking, I would love to join a mastermind. What would you personally want out of a mastermind you're about to join?
Well, first off, I mean, if you're going to join a mastermind, especially if you're forming your own, make sure you gather together people that are smarter than you, because with our mastermind, I think I'm the youngest of the group. So Anyway, I feel like there's a lot of wisdom out there, a lot of things that I can learn from you guys, things that you guys say, hey, this really worked very well the time that I did this. And then you've got the stories of, hey, don't ever try this because this really messed me up. So as far as what I would want to get out of a mastermind is, I would want to be able to learn, I guess kind of like when you're going on vacation, you print out a map so you know how to get somewhere. It's a lot like finding shortcuts, not in the way of you're going to get somewhere without putting in the effort, but finding ways that do work and ways that don't work, and learning those without having to go through struggle after struggle to find out, but just having someone that's been there and having someone that can point you in the right direction. I think for me has been one of the biggest benefits of our mastermind, is just hearing you guys. Right now I think everyone except me has a podcast, and it's something I'm looking to do in the future. And hearing you guys talk about what's worked and what hasn't has been very helpful. I mean, it's something that I could spend hours and hours researching, and in 2 minutes, you're going to tell me how you did this and it worked and how to do it. And that's something that you can't really put a price tag on.
Yeah, we do seem to have a lot of feedback in our group. And if anyone is curious, I did an episode with another guy that I'm good friends with, James Kinson, and his episode with me, episode 23. So if you go to empoweredpodcast.com/23, his podcast, what we talked about was why you should start a podcast. And we talked specifically the impact that even just, I think at the time he was maybe 20 episodes in and maybe less than 6 months, just about the impact that it had had on his life, the growth that he had seen and what he was wanting to do. And masterminds aside, just the power of that. And you're right, most of us in our group do have a podcast of some sort. I think the latest edition was Randy and Johnny Lee. He's kind of fluctuating. He's in a period of self-discovery, I think. But what was the other question I was going to ask you? That's it. Now our mastermind, we all came together with a mutual idea. I wouldn't say that we were not friends, but I wouldn't say we were friends either. We knew of each other.
Yeah, no.
And so I want everybody to know it wasn't like lifelong friends. So today's the very end of July, and Justin and I met just under 8 months ago. So it's not like we've known each other for 15 years, but now we are friends, and we add a lot of value to each other's lives. So don't think you have to be friends with people to go into a mastermind group. But my question was, we kind of started this all together. It was Johnny's idea. He was definitely the spearhead for that. What do you think about paid masterminds? What do you think of that concept? If anybody's looking to join one of those.
When someone first mentioned that to me, I mean, initially you think paid. I mean, really, you want me to pay? But there are mornings that I've woken up, and you get up and you think, I really want to wake up this morning. And when you've got something on the line, kind of like when you get, when you pay for a book as opposed to when someone gives it to you, you're a lot more, you're a lot more likely to read it if you paid for it. And so I think that's I think it's something from a motivation standpoint I could definitely see being beneficial. So I'm definitely not opposed to it. I think it's a great idea, especially if you need the motivation. I think it can be a very good thing.
Well, the reason why I asked that, I don't always talk about my stuff on the podcast, but if you are interested in, if you're listening to this and you're interested in being part of my paid mastermind, you can go to, let's see, I know the regular URL, the podcast URL, same mastermind, but different URL, empoweredpodcast.com/mastermind. And you can apply there to be part of that group. And I'd love to see everyone do that. You're very right, Justin, is if you do pay for it, I like the book analogy. If you pay for the book, you're much more likely to read it. Because I'm sure most people out there have a stack of free ebooks that they were given. Hopefully people don't just add my motivational ebook to the read someday, because I've got some cool stuff in there. But yeah, and you're very right with, if you pay for something, you're much more likely to use it. You're much more likely to be dedicated to that. Although our free group has been fairly consistent. I'm in one other free mastermind, and we are not as consistent. And it's not at 6 a.m. So there's no excuse for not being there's no excuse for not being in that other one. But my early morning mastermind is one of the most dedicated and consistent. So I feel like we're doing a great job there, and look forward to seeing everybody here in a couple of weeks. Are you coming to Podcast Movement? I don't think you are you?
I think I mentioned last week, I'm in the process of starting a whole new business, and we're transitioning out of my old business. So it's kind of falling in a bad time for us. I wish I could, but not going to be there.
Is that new business what we have talked about with?
It's going to be, I'm opening a car dealership, just kind of from scratch, off the ground. Something to give me a little more margin. I'm in a family business right now, and just from a time standpoint, it gets a little difficult. So we have a service center, and we sell cars. We do a little bit of everything. So I'm kind of wanting to, I guess from an online terminology standpoint, I'm kind of niching down. I'm just going to be doing cars and kind of specializing there. So.
And I don't usually do this on the show, Justin, so hopefully it's all right with you, but I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay. When
are you going to start your car flipping course or training or however you plan on packaging? When is that going to be available? Can you give us a date?
Man, I was just talking to my good friend Jim Woods the other day. You should check him out over at Jim Woods.
Oh
Writes.
Yeah.
He's actually in a little transition.
He's a fantastic writer.
Man, he is great. He's very good. But he's actually going to be moving here in the next little while. He's transitioning. But I was talking to him the other day, and I'm really shooting for the beginning of the year. I think. Around January 1st-ish, a lot of people are looking to change things in their lives, and a lot of things that people are looking to change is their income. And, I'm working on a course to help people learn how to flip cars and make money while doing it. So I'm shooting for the beginning of January.
Now, what qualifies you, or what experience do you have to be able to teach me how to flip a car, Justin? Because I think you have a really cool story here, and I want you to share that with my audience.
Well, I grew up, my dad's always flipped cars. I grew up, we'd have a different car, seems like about every month. But, for me, when I was 16, I just kind of had the itch, and my dad had his dealer's license. So I got to go to the auction, and the first time I ever went scared me to death. I didn't buy anything. The second time I went, I bought a 1973 Volkswagen Beetle that actually ended up catching on fire as I was driving down the road.
Nice.
Didn't damage anything. Sold it, made $1,000, and I've been hooked ever since. But whether it's Craigslist, going to an auction, since I was 16, I've bought and sold. I put myself through college, flipping cars. So I've been doing it. I'm only 26, so when I say I've been doing it for 10 years, it sounds kind of crazy. But I've been buying and selling cars. I'm doing it on the side, and I went to a college that wasn't too inexpensive. It was about $16,000 a year. So, as a 18 to 22-year-old, I was making enough to pay for that.
Awesome.
So, if you've got the time, if you've got the patience, if you're willing to learn a few things about cars, nothing too major, just what to look for and what kind of cars to look for. It can be something that can be a lot of fun. I enjoy it. It's something a lot of people play golf or whatever your hobby might be. Mine's
video games.
Video games, yeah.
That's what you're looking for.
But for me, it's a lot like a video game. You get on your phone. I've got an app. You get on your app. You look for the car you're looking for. You wait till you find one in the right price range. You call them. You go from there. It's a lot like a video game. You're trying to get to the right price with the right car, and you do it enough times, you can pay for that extra vacation or whatever it is you're looking to accomplish.
And I would bet James Kinson's when you sign up for his list, you get his ebook 6 must-have tips before you inspect your next used car. And I know that's where he has built his brand and his podcast around, just taking some of the risk out of that and buying cash cars instead of going into debt, which Definitely. I'm a fan of.
Definitely. And then those 6 tips that he's got are, that's not one of those free ebooks that you buy and it's like, I just do something together. He had posted it in our Mastermind group forum. And, when I read over it, he was kind of asking, hey, should I add anything? And when I read it, I was like, man, this is good stuff. Like, people need this. And so if you haven't checked that out, get over to his website and download that because it's full of good stuff.
And for everybody who hasn't heard me talk about James a dozen times, it's cashcarconvert.com. And I would highly recommend you check that out. But here's what, as you're listening to this driving down the road, or you're sitting in your office, or you got some headphones on the back porch or something, here's what I want you to get out of this last couple minutes of talking about. It's not just us rambling about buying cars. I honestly, personally don't have much interest in buying and flipping cars, but I know the life-changing things. Like Justin just said, he put himself through college doing this, and he didn't have to spend just a ton of money. It didn't put him out on the street homeless because he bought the wrong thing, but through strategic information he was able to put himself through college. The only reason why I'm bringing that up is James and Justin here are starting these businesses, helping people through the knowledge that they've acquired through all of their experience. They are creating a digital product that people can watch just like a movie or listen to just like a podcast, but they are making an impact on the world with the information that they already know. And if you're stuck in a crappy job or a jerk boss, whatever, here's 2 guys that are, in addition to me, so if you hear me talk about my expertise course, it's not just me talking about it. There's other people out there who are making an impact on the world with what they know. And Justin, when you're talking about this kind of stuff, I'm really excited to see what you come up with over the next, it's already almost August when we're recording. So with the second half of the year, even though half of the second half is almost gone, I'm really excited to see you pursuing your passion, kind of, I don't want to say breaking free of the chains because it's your family business and that might be a little bit awkward, but really pursuing your passion, turning your knowledge into something that you can sell. You can make money helping people, and that's can sometimes be an uncomfortable step. But I'm proud of you for doing that, and I'm glad to know you and James and the fact that we're all in a mastermind group together, encouraging, supporting, giving feedback to one another. What works, what doesn't work, all the things that you have mentioned in the last few minutes here. I'm really excited to be in a mastermind group with you guys.
Well, definitely. Hey, man, I just want to brag on you for a minute. You kind of you kind of downplayed. You said, and I also have a course too, man. I've been going through that course. There's some good stuff in there. For those that are listening to this podcast, he just kind of put himself on the back burner there, but he's got some really good info in there that's really helped me as I'm working on my course, kind of point me in the right direction. So anyway, I just want to throw that in there because I've really enjoyed going through it.
Well, thank you. I I'm glad to hear. It's one of those things where I don't get a whole lot of feedback on it. I'm like, what do people like, what they don't like? And so if anybody's interested in checking that out, you can go to empoweredpodcast.com/expertise. It's empoweredpodcast.com/expertise. It'll take you to the landing page. And I don't know if when this releases, if I have registration and enrollment open, but you can hop on the email list and be notified of when the next class starts. So, Justin, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I know it's going to be a busy evening for you coming up, so I'll let you get back to the wife and kids and dogs and, and all of that kind of stuff. So thanks for hanging out with me today. Thanks for spending some time with the audience. If someone wanted to connect with you, where can I send them?
Well, you can find me online at justincarper.com, or you can catch me on Twitter at Justin_Carper. So, yeah, definitely love to connect with you.
Awesome. I'll put those in the show notes. I don't know what episode this will be, but you can find them all at empoweredpodcast.com. Justin, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
As many of you know, one of my masterminds meets every Wednesday morning, 6 a.m. Central Time, and this morning was no exception. We met, and let me just tell you, one of the guys in my group is going through some stuff, and just the support that, and it wasn't just me, but the support that our group as a whole was able to provide, the suggestions, the feedback, the hey, I've been there kind of comments, hopefully provided just a ton of value to this guy, and it just reinforces to me the value of having a mastermind, having a group of people that you meet on a regular basis who can add value to your life, who you can test, who can test ideas with and say, hey, this worked, this didn't work, or have you tried? Because we can't think of it all. We can't come up with every idea ourselves. We can't figure out every single problem with just the single brain that we have between our ears. And if you are not in a mastermind and you are success oriented, you want to do something different tomorrow than you're doing today, or if you're excuse me, or if you're just looking to do something different with your life, I cannot more highly recommend that you find a mastermind. In fact, I'd almost require it. And if I was coaching you, and you're kind of getting some passive coaching by listening to the show here, but if I was coaching you one-on-one, one of the very first things that I would suggest that you do is find a mastermind, just like-minded people who you can commune with, who you can connect with, and bounce ideas off with. And if you are listening to this today, live on, I don't know, what is this, September the 17th, 16th, I think, September the 17th, Wednesday. If you're listening to this live, I will maybe take one or two more people. I don't want to say I don't want to, because that's not right either, but I might be able to handle a couple more people in my private group mastermind. If you want to go to ellerywells.com/mastermind, there's a big enroll button. There's some details below the button if you have some questions. But if you're listening to this live, September 17th, it's a Wednesday, go to ellerywells.com/mastermind. And if you want to join that mastermind, there's information there. There is a monthly fee. It's a premium mastermind group. We have specific goals. There's accountability there. There's support there, a special community just for this, and it's going to be awesome. And I am leading that, and I've got 4 people in there already. And like I said, I might take 2 more if I just think you're a perfect fit. So ellerywells.com/mastermind. I hope you've found value in this episode. And if you're in a mastermind, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear the success that you are having because of that group. And if you're not in one, I highly encourage you to find one. Check me out. Go to empoweredpodcast.com/awesome. Make sure that you are on that list so that you get notified of all new episodes, of any special discounts that I give, and the mastermind groups. I emailed part of that list about this specific group. So if you're not on that list, you missed that email. So I hope you're having a wonderful day. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you for listening to the Empowered Podcast. I'm your host, Ellery Wells. Talk to you soon.